Hey guys, Chronically Jenni here, and today I'm doing the all-new chronic illness community tag, which was set up by my lovely friend Georgina from Georgina's Journey and the wonderful Izzy. So let's get started. The first question is pretty simple. It's, what are your diagnoses? Diagnoses? Diagnoses. Diagnoses. What are your diagnoses? That's what I'm going with. So I was diagnosed in 2016 after a long fought battle of being undiagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, hypermobility type, and postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, or POTS, which is much easier to say. And I was also diagnosed with a CSF leak, or cerebrospinal fluid leak, which I spent the most of the first half of 2017 having surgeries to get fixed. If you don't know already, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a connective tissue disorder which causes chronic pain and messes with your joints and pretty much everything in your body, because your whole body is made out of connective tissue. And yeah, so I can sublux and dislocate my joints very easily, I bruise very easily, I'm in a lot of pain all the time. POTS is a form of dysautonomia, which basically means that your body's autonomic nervous system, which is responsible for things like breathing and heart rate and digestion and blood pressure, doesn't work as well as it should and doesn't account for postural changes. So when I stand up, my blood pressure drops and my heart rate rises, and it makes you dizzy and fainty and not very nice. But I've been on medication to control that for a long time. I still have symptoms, but they're nowhere near as bad. And a cerebrospinal fluid leak was also caused by my EDS. If you want to find out more about my journey with that, head up here. Question number 2 is, does your chronic illness affect the way you dress? And however much I'd like to say no, it really does. This especially comes down to my awful gastro symptoms and my bloating. Recently, I just haven't been able to wear trousers that aren't leggings because I've had such a bad flare with my bloating symptoms that I keep looking 5 or 6 months pregnant a lot of days, and it means that anything with a button or a zip can get really, really uncomfortable. So I tend to wear kind of stretchy, flowy things like the dress I've got on right now, or leggings or something fairly comfortable. Also, I think a lot of clothes can cause pain on your joints and movement. It depends what you're wearing. Sometimes I have to wear certain things, for example my posture shirt, to help with my shoulders when I have major problems with those, and I can't wear certain bras sometimes, so it can be trickier than you think it might be. Question 3, has anyone ever tried to make chronic illness a competition? Now, I wouldn't say anyone with a chronic illness has tried to make it a competition, and I've never gone out looking for that because it's weird. It's not a competition, we're all sick. But I get it more from people who aren't chronically ill. You know, I'll kind of say, oh, I've got a headache, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I've had a serious headache all day. I'm like, okay. Especially when I was going through my CSF leak, which caused the most horrific headaches ever. Someone else would say they had a headache and I'd be like, So yeah, I think it's people that don't understand the chronic side of illness that try and make it a competition, or try and make it so that they think you, and try and make it so you think they understand, but it doesn't really work like that. It's a tricky one. Do you have any pets that bring you comfort when you're feeling ill? Now, unfortunately, I don't have any pets myself. The first thing on my list when I move out is a dog. I want one, I need one, I love them. But when I was first ill and had to leave university because I was trying to get a diagnosis, I started looking after other people's dogs through borrowmydoggy.com, which is a fantastic website and service. And I made my absolute best friend in the world, who is a little cockapoo called Molly. You will have seen her in some of my vlogs, and she also now has a sister called Poppy, and I absolutely adore them. They kept me going, well, Molly especially kept me going so much when I was really, really, really ill, gave me a reason to get out of bed, and gives great cuddles. So yeah, I'm very thankful that I still get to see them on a fairly regular basis, which is absolutely lovely, but I definitely do want a pup of my own very soon. What's something that your illness affects that other people wouldn't expect? This is a tricky one because I think I'm quite open with most parts of my illness. But I think something that I don't mention enough is the concentration aspects and how difficult it is to focus sometimes because of pain or fatigue or one or other of these things. I think because people don't understand how you can be in pain all the time, and they don't understand how much energy it takes to be in pain all of the time. I think that's something that people don't necessarily think of when I talk about my illness. They'll think about the pain and possibly the exhaustion, but not the impact that has on your mental kind of abilities, but also on your mental health and how stressful it can be and how anxious it can make you. If you could change one thing in the world in regards to chronic illness, what would that be? And I would definitely have to say doctors' understanding. I, as with many people with rarer, more little known conditions, experience an awful time with doctors who are the people that are meant to help us the most. And in a vlog recently, I went to see a gastro doctor, and he knew about EDS and he knew about POTS and he wanted to learn about my CSF leak. And I was shocked, I was amazed. It felt amazing to be able to just talk about my illnesses and have someone want to learn about my illnesses that didn't know all there is to know. And he knew about the effects that EDS has on your gastro symptoms, and I couldn't believe it. And that shouldn't be how it is. You should be able to walk into any doctor and then at least have a vague understanding of your illness. And it took me seeing so many different doctors before I found a diagnosis, being in inexplicable pain and completely exhausted, and having had every test and every medication under the sun, and no one could tell me what was wrong with me. I was extremely lucky to just find the right doctor who diagnosed me with all three on the spot. But if I hadn't have found him, I'd still be looking, because no one understands. And I understand that doctors cannot possibly learn every single illness out there. There are some that are so completely rare that you'd never think of it. But if a patient is trying to explain their condition to you, they should be receptive of that and accepting of that. I've had so many doctors kind of say this isn't how you should be doing it, when I'm the one that's lived with these conditions for X number of years. And I found what helps, because no doctor has ever given me the answers on a sheet of paper. Anyway, that was a bit of a rant, sorry. I'm sure anyone with a chronic illness understands that and sees how frustrating it is, but that's my rant. So the next question is, do you consider your chronic illness a disability? And I definitely say yes to that. So the Equality Act in the UK defines disability as having a physical or mental impairment, and that impairment is substantial and long-term and has an effect on a person's ability to carry out normal day-to-day tasks. And that's true for me. You know, I have to adapt so many things to make them work for me and for my illness. And I can't do a lot of the things, or have to find different ways of doing a lot of the things that people my age do. So yes, I definitely consider my chronic illness to be a disability in a certain way. Funny chronic illness stories. I'm gonna have to have a think about this one. I'm not not sure I have any particularly funny stories. That's really sad, isn't it? Okay, so I have a funny story. It took me a while to think of it, but I actually went back and watched Georgina and Izzy's video, and it reminded me of something. And there's kind of two. So I was having a really bad day at uni, and I needed to use my wheelchair, and I was really struggling. My room is up a massive hill. Don't know why they put the accessible rooms there. This poor guy who is a regular wheelchair user was up and down it every day. Like, his arms must be incredibly strong. I could not do it, especially on a weekday when I was having problems with my shoulders. So the poor administrator guy from the university was coming out of the building just as I was struggling past. And he offered to push me, and I was like, you know what, that would really help. But then we just kept, like, we got to the top of the hill, and then he just couldn't get me up the curb. And I was trying to, like, push myself, and I was like, I've got it from here, I've got it from here. And he just couldn't do it. But that's funnier if you know the person. But anyway, my other story is I was absolutely desperate one day to get to class, and I couldn't walk. So I asked my flatmates to go and get me a mobility scooter, which they got, and couldn't drive at all. It definitely got kind of bashed about my room. But eventually we managed to get it out, and I got to class. And I don't even know if this is funny, it just made my day, because instead of being like all sympathetic and pitying, everyone was like, I want to go in the mobility scooter. So in this big room at the top of our building, loads of people just had to go on the mobility scooter. Even my teacher was going round and round in the mobility scooter, which definitely cheered me up and made me laugh when I was having a really bad day. So yes, I think those are my funny stories. They're not that funny, but they made me smile. When you're in a flare, do you prefer to be alone or have company? I think it depends on the flare. For me, if it's a kind of migraine, headachy flare where I don't want lights and I don't want anything, then probably alone. But equally, when I'm in a flare, I love a good distraction. Distraction for me is the way to feel better. So I'd probably say I'd love to have company, but I need that company to understand that I just want them to be there, and I don't want to have to do anything. You know, I'd absolutely love for someone to just come around my house, lay in bed with me, watch crap movies or crap telly, and just feel better with good food, and, you know, just chill with me. I think that is the ultimate thing that I would like when I'm in a flare, to make me feel a bit better. If you could say one thing to yourself when you first got ill, what would it be? And I think this is different for when I first got ill to when I first got diagnosed. I think they're two very different things. If it was when I was first diagnosed, I would definitely say that you were not alone. There is this whole amazing, incredible community out here, that will support you and that understands you and will be your friend and will listen to you cry and talk to you and make you feel better. You aren't alone in this. There are so many other people going through this, because when I was first diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any of the answers. I didn't have a lot of help. I didn't have any understanding of my own condition. So I wish that I'd found communities like this a little bit earlier, so I realised that I wasn't alone. However, if it was when I was looking for that diagnosis and was really unwell and not understanding what was going on, I would just say that you will find it eventually. I know how hard it is right now, but the answers are out there. Keep going, keep looking. Don't get lost and come up with worst case scenarios. Just keep going and you will find the answers eventually, I promise. Do you have any unexplained symptoms? I think this is tricky because pretty much every symptom I have, I just say, oh, it's just EDS or it's just POTS, kind of whatever it is. And that's probably not a good thing because God forbid, if I ever got something serious that wasn't related to it, I probably wouldn't get seen because I'd just think, oh, it's just EDS or it's just POTS. But yeah, I get really random cold hands and pins and needles in my hands when it's not particularly cold, and I always just go, oh, it's a POTS thing, but I don't know if it is or not. And you know, sometimes I get very strange headaches that aren't my normal headaches, and I'm like, oh, is this another leak? Is this another sort of migraine? What is this? And I don't know. And I think the difficulty with EDS and POTS especially is it's so variable. So there's sometimes no reason for a flare. And I think that's the more difficult thing, is the why. So yes, it's down to the condition generally, but specifically why this symptom is happening now is very often unexplainable. And the final question is there anything that cheers you up when you're feeling ill? As I've already said, the puppies, they're great. And as I've also said, I love a good distraction. Grey's Anatomy is my current obsession. I just love a good story. I do love books, but I find them difficult to read, especially when I'm feeling particularly ill. So a good TV series, love a bit of Bake Off, that's great. And just spending time with my family and friends, that always makes me feel a bit better, especially when they're understanding. So yeah, there's all my answers for the chronic illness community tag. Thank you so much, Georgina and Izzy, for putting this together. I will see you very soon for another video. Spoons and love to all of you guys. If you haven't already, I would love it if you'd hit subscribe. I will see you very soon.